Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner, Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, we have another mailbag episode. Unsurprisingly, the fans are always willing to send in their questions. Always appreciate your willingness to interact with us and ask us questions and try and get answers to whatever is going on in Cubs land. It's not too angsty right now. I think two wins in Atlanta really ease some stress. This team, I think I said it last episode. I have to give them some credit because I was down on them after Monday's loss, and they bounced back well, and they've done that all season long. There are moments where we've seen like this is it. This is the long losing streak or something, and I honestly thought there was a chance they could get swept in Atlanta, and they were able to avoid that, obviously, and win the series against two really good pitchers. Let's kick this off. First question, already thinking playoffs here, which you should be, Jordan Zickert. Do you think Cade could be the game one starter in a potential wildcard season? That's Cade Horton, of course. What do you think, Patrick?
Why not? I guess I don't have any concrete information in terms of where the Cubs are leaning. Council had said there is a point where you have to kind of start to lock that in, and I think we're sort of nearing it. I would say that would be mid-September, maybe on next week's road trip, maybe get a little more clarity on that. I think the big thing is that you would trust Cade Horton in that situation, which is amazing to think considering how slow his ramp up was in spring training and how cautious the Cubs have been with him, how last year was largely a wasted season developmentally. I think what has been answered is that he's great at Wrigley Field. If you look at kind of assuming they're hosting the Padres there, we'll see how that shakes out. And also I think they know his background and how he's handled himself as a rookie, that they don't think the moment would speed up on him. And he is kind of checking all those boxes in terms of getting better as the season progresses, applying what he's learned. So I think the best way to answer is certainly in play, and they would not have any hesitation in terms of the weight of that assignment. And we'll see how things shake out here. What do you think, Sahadev?
Yeah, I don't think you can rule it out is how I don't know if I'd put him as the leader, but I think I would go Shota. I think that's how I'd go, just the way things are playing out right now. I understand, and maybe that's just me leaning towards I don't want to put a rookie in game one. And maybe that's a bad thought process. Just go with the guy that's pitching the best, and I think it's hard to argue that Cade Horton's what's the argument against saying that Cade Horton's pitching the best right now among this staff? I mean, he's arguably pitching the best among any pitcher in baseball right now. I guess the argument would be he hasn't gone 6-7 innings consistently. I think I would dismiss that if I so I'm right now what I'm doing is convincing myself that Cade Horton's probably the right choice. I think I would still go with Shota and just go with I think Council specifically told you guys on the road splitting up the lefties is not something he needs to do.
He called it irrelevant when I brought that idea up, because in the back of my head I remember Cubs people saying this is more of a regular season thing, but when they had Cole Hamels, John Lester, Jose Quintana, was there another lefty in that 2018, 2019 range? But they just felt like it was a lot when you bunch those all together, and they felt that opposing lineups could get a little more comfortable. So I wasn't I totally wasn't pulling it out of thin air, with the Hamels, Quintana, Lester. But Council very much disagreed. So that's why I thought maybe he'd be a game two starter. He's not thinking that way. And then his other point, I think we've mentioned this before, was the result of game one dictates everything. And so there is really no game three starter if you've lost game one, that it's all hands on deck, your best pitchers pitch. And I think I need to remind myself too, because I was looking up Jake Arrieta's run in 2015. Like, yes, the game one starter might pitch 4 1/3 innings. Like, you're looking at it as 2 times through the lineup ish.
Yeah.
That just the way these bullpens and pitching staffs are managed so much more aggressively now, it's not like you're going to be expecting him to go out there after the 7th inning stretch.
Yeah, I think talking through this now, so if you're thinking game 2 may turn out to be a must win, I think you would want a lefty and a righty starter available in that game.
Maybe,
right?
yeah.
Maybe splitting the lefties isn't important, but having a lefty and a righty to go long may be important. So you have Boyd and Cade Horton available. I'm just kind of spitballing here, trying to think through things. These are not things that I've heard from Tommy Sahadev or Craig Counsell yet. Like, these are things that I kind of just going off how they do things. I'm trying to think through it. And if you count everything out starting now, which I think is too early to do, but I think Cade Horton lines up as game 2, and Shota lines up as game 1. Our friend Megan Montemuro was counting it out in the press box the other day in Atlanta, and that's what she saw. I don't know if we're too early on that. I agree with you. Maybe let's wait a couple days, but I think you can count it out, and that's how it's lined up right now.
And Counsell did acknowledge, this is Labor Day weekend in Denver, that you can sort of script it out, and there's a way that it could just flow like that into a playoff series, but that you can't count the days out and assume that's automatically going to happen. Right. Is kind of the wiggle room that he left there.
We could be talking about clinching in a week, and that changes how they set everything. Then they have another week to set everything up.
Yeah.
So, okay. More pitching questions. Are there any plans to give Boyd and Horton some extra rest? I'm surprised the Cubs are moving Assad to the pen rather than going 6-man during their upcoming 10-game stretch. Here's my look. Yes, they're going to get all these guys extra rest. I think. I don't know if I haven't heard the exact plans, and maybe that's a good question to ask in pregame today or this weekend. I think you have to get these guys extra rest. Maybe the extra rest is simply you're going to clinch in a week, or hopefully clinch in a week, and that's a way to get rest. And then you start lining things up and give guys extra rest. They have Savali in there. They have Assad in there. They're going to have Soroka soon, who had a really good outing on Thursday. Am I missing someone that can go long? Ben Brown is still up with the team, right? So there are people that can go long. You can shorten starts. So I think there are options there.
It seems like that's been the plan. I mean, you pointed this out last year with Counsell, that his plan is always to give starters extra rest. That if you look at what he's done in Milwaukee, not even in a context of September and preparing for the playoffs, like his default is almost always towards giving guys extra rest. So it would be kind of shocking if they did not build that in here very soon.
All right, Patrick, let's do our DraftKings player spotlight. Okay. Today's spotlight is Matthew Boyd. Matthew Boyd, obviously one of the better starters in this rotation. I think there's been some questions as to how he's been pitching, right? Like, is he going into the playoffs on a high note? I don't think that's the case, right? He's not pitching at his best. I think that'd be unfair to suggest. In fact, since August 8th, his August 8th start, he's given up at least 2 earned runs in every start, which just hasn't been like Matthew Boyd. I will say this. He has not gone under 5 innings since May 23rd. It's that one. It's that bad outing against the Reds. That's the last time he didn't. And that wasn't even a bad outing. What happened was he kind of like had it was just an extended first inning where he gave up 4 runs, but it was like there were some hard hits in that game, but it started with bad luck, like a hit batter and some bloops, and then it just got out of hand. And then he gave up some hard hits, and it was like a 35 pitch first inning, but he was able to go 4 innings. It was almost a win after that first inning. But I don't need to make excuses for him. He's been brilliant for majority of the season. I do think I have had some minor concerns about him lately, but I do think Washington's start was really nice. I thought that was a good start. I think that was Sunday. So that game, maybe it was Saturday. Either way, whatever day it was a loss. But so it kind of got overlooked. But certainly he's been really, really good and really impressive. Bright light for this team as far as the rotation goes.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, we just did this, that he's a little bit overlooked, like as we're talking about playoff rotation stuff. It's like Cade Horton, Shota Imanaga, and Boyd is the only one amongst that group that has major league postseason experience, and he performed at a very high level for the Guardians last October. I think we've all been sort of waiting for that dip from Boyd, like just because he hasn't pitched a full season since 2019, and for him to be this deep into September and be the anchor of this rotation is extremely impressive. It's hard to imagine where the Cubs would be without Boyd, given what happened to Justin Steele so early in the season, the injuries to Tyone and Imanaga, some pitchers who did not step forward for whatever reason. Like, he's the one who's carried this team in a lot of ways. And I mean, building off our previous question, yeah, maybe you give him a little bit of everyone's handing out resets here. Maybe we give Matthew Boyd a little bit of a reset. He knows what it takes to pitch in October. He's, a tremendous teammate, one of the nicest people you'll ever encounter in the baseball industry, enormously respected in there, and has brought, we talk about a team that's been consistent, that hasn't had the long losing streak. Like, he's a big part of that, not just with his performance, but also just his demeanor and positivity. It's really been invaluable.
Yeah, I think it's he's had probably since the end of July 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4 starts that I'd say like it's not good, or those are bad starts, let's say. No. Outside of that, like it's been like half and half, which is odd considering how well he had been pitching for the first 3+ months. So I think Friday will be a nice indicator. Can he put together 2 really strong starts? It's a solid Tampa Bay team, not a great one, but they've been pretty up and down this season, but moments where they look really, really strong. All right, let's throw it to Alana Rizzo for her Northside Territory pick.
Thanks, Sahadev, for my pick this week. I'm looking ahead to the Fall Classic. An NL Central team to win it all is at plus 475 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Maybe the Cubs get hot at the right time, or maybe the Brewers rip off another impressive winning streak when it matters the most. Either way, I'd win. I'll put $100 on the NL Central to win a title at plus 475. Sahadev and Patrick, back to you guys.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet, plus over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
All right, we have a lot of questions like this one. coming from our buddy Tyler. Let me get it up there. With the continued struggles of many players, Suzuki, Castro, Bush, why are the Cubs so against ever playing guys like Ballesteros, Casey, even when matchups make sense? Look, okay, so I think here's the focus. First of all, it would be mostly Suzuki that you'd be sitting, right, of that group to play any of those guys. And and I think the argument could be made that, look, Tucker's been out. Why is Castro playing over? I guess Casey wasn't up. Alcantara or Ballesteros for the last game, but that was Chris Sale pitching. So I guess that's the answer there. He could have played against Spencer Strider. He didn't. I get the argument. I think Council leans veterans are going to perform. They will perform eventually. I think he's been right a lot of the time. There was a question. You know what? I'll let you address this, Patrick. There was another question that I think it touches on this, and I want to touch on that as well. But that's the basic answer. I think he trusts his veterans to perform, and he wants to get them the run up to perform because they're going to be the ones that he needs now, like the run up to the playoffs and in the playoffs.
Yeah, I just think asking Ballesteros and Casey to figure everything out in the next 10 days and be ready for the playoffs is just not realistic. You look at where the Cubs are right now. This is not a rebuilding situation anymore. They're not just handing at bats out to guys from Iowa, and it's a smaller part, but I think Ballesteros, Casey, there's still questions about their defense, and that's been a big Council thing as well, of just Pete Crow Armstrong got way more runway as a rookie because he brought high-level defense. Bryce Terang in Milwaukee. This is kind of a central thing for Council of giving guys runway who can play D. And, there's probably going to be a time where you give Casey that runway. I guess that's one of our future questions later in the show as well. I just don't think that time is right now.
Yeah, the other question someone has or point they wanted to make was that for every example of a rookie struggling, there are many examples of a rookie coming up and tearing it up for a month before the league adjusts. This is from Chris Pissarilli. Look, he even said even Junior Lake has a run like that. I hear you, and I think by giving the example of Junior Lake, which was over a decade ago, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head outside of elite prospects that have come up and torn it up right away now. The difference between when Chris Bryant and Wilson Contreras and all those guys came up, the difference between the pitching then and now is so different. The way bullpens are used, very different. There's you and I wrote about this, Patrick, about how that core was dismantled because of the way they were attacked by pitching. The game changed during that era as far as pitchers, how they attacked hitters, and they exposed the flaws of that core. That was one of a half dozen key reasons why that core didn't become what everyone thought it could be. And that's probably unfair. We could get into that some other day, but they did accomplish a lot of great things, obviously, but we cannot ignore how good pitching is now and how they use pitching. It's not just the starters. It's a starter goes 5 and then there's 4 guys coming out of the bullpen that throw 99 and have nasty breaking balls. It's just very different now. It's really hard for rookies to settle in and find their place. We see it all the time now, and the Cubs have multiple examples. So yes, maybe one of those 3 guys gets hot. I just don't think that's that's a very different. It's a very different game. There are very few examples of that nowadays, and it's just as likely that Suzuki gets hot again or that Willie Castro can give your team some big hits, because just because we've seen a month and a half of bad Willie Castro doesn't mean that that's who he is as a player. that's not going to allay the frustrations of guys like Tyler and I believe Chris, who has that question. I get it. I get fan frustration, and I'm not diminishing it. I'm just trying to explain the thought process of Craig Counsell here. Here's a downer. Assuming Kyle Tucker walks this winter, how will the Cubs fill that spot in the lineup? There were a lot of questions like this. Is Casey the automatic fill-in? Do they go after Kyle Schwarber? Is there a trade to be made? I think this is the answer. Here's my answer. It's going to be someone like Casey, probably Casey. This is assuming let's take Kyle Tucker out of the equation, right? That's what the question is saying. It's going to be that's my thought. Casey, they go into like February, March, assuming it's Casey, and then they try and find an Alex Bregman type situation where they're opportunistic. Whoever that is, I don't have the free agent list in front of me. Maybe there's a trade to be had.
I mean, Bregman has an opt-out.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would be looking for a bat, I guess, right? Just looking for any positional bat, and then however you fit the pieces in. And if they don't find that, you try and find like a trustworthy veteran outfielder who could also serve as the fourth outfielder. And then your plan is Casey's getting, 4 out of 6 starts a week, something like that. 5 out of 6 starts a week. That's how I look at it. That's just my general assumption. And I'll say this: if they go that route, my hope would be that the Cubs pursue pitching, and that's their focus in the offseason. Really upgrade the pitching, find a stud starter. So it's not like you're just not spending money. I don't know if they will after last offseason. I think you and I both were like, they're going to spend that Bellinger money. And then when they didn't, and that led to a lot of angst, obviously. But that would be my thought for the early predictions on the offseason.
You're right on. When what I've been looking at here is the list of free agents after the season. It is very much tilted towards pitching. Beyond Tucker, the list of position players is sort of light. It would be the Cody Bellinger opting out, Alex Bregman opting out. Maybe you're in the mix with Scott Boras there on some of those spring training last minute deals. Yeah. I do think they're going to be in on Tucker. I think there's no question about that. That's a different thing than saying that they're going to go to the nth degree to bring him back. It's going to be fascinating to see how Kyle Tucker finishes this year, what sort of position he is in terms of commanding that next mega deal. I'm with you. I think Owen Casey, everyone who's frustrated by Owen Casey's lack of at-bats now are going to be exhausted watching him trying to figure out how to hit major league pitching and play every day next year. And that's just because that's happens to everyone. I think he's got a bright future, but he's got a lot of growing to do at the major league level, and it's probably going to be tough to watch at times. Outside of Tucker or pitching, I don't know how long they're going to want to go on free agent contracts because that CBA is up after 2026. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see how they approach that. I mean, thus far, even years out, they've been very cautious about not going beyond 2026 with almost all of their contracts, except for a few very notable exceptions. So yeah, I'm with you. I think you put money into the pitching staff. Also interesting to see like trade wise where they're at after they really held on to almost all of their big trade chips at the deadline. Will different opportunities present themselves this offseason that maybe we're not thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a quick break and wrap it up with a couple more quick questions.
We spend a lot of time on the road. We are often concerned about our online security when you're logging in from all over the globe, really. So you should maybe look into a VPN. What does that stand for, Kratz?
Virtual Private Network.
Boom. Nailed it. And that virtual private network that you should look into is called Surfshark. It is time to take control of your online security and try Surfshark today. You can enjoy their 30-day money-back guarantee and secure your digital world right now by visiting the link that we'll post there for you and start surfing securely. Surfshark.com/foul or the code foul at checkout will get you 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN, aka Virtual Private Network. It's a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. Surfshark's unique VPN benefits include use on unlimited devices in 100 countries and 24/7 support at surfshark.com/FOUL. This has been your tech update. Keep your data safe.
All right, Patrick, let's get back to these questions. We got a question from Blue Line Theology, who's my buddy now. He started this with I believe that the question started. I didn't include this on the screen, but I believe it started with "Dearest Sahadev." So,
oh wow, right,
yeah. And he's talking about Kyle Tucker here and the injuries. Are the Cubs unique? Because it feels like they are and struggling to settle on a strategy for injured players. Look, we talked about this last episode. I don't know if they're unique because it's really hard to follow the injury IL issues of other teams when I've talked to other reporters about it, or even someone like Megan who's covered the Phillies. They seem to say like this isn't super unique. I do think we've gotten a couple. I think the Tucker one is especially frustrating, and it's kind of like the limit. I think this is how it goes. It's not a major injury. It's not a break. It's not a tear. It's not something that this is an obvious IL stint. The player's like either like I can play through this, or they're saying give me 2 more days. Give me 2 more days. I'm gonna be fine. I know how my body heals. I can give you I can give you those 7 days that we would have otherwise lost. This is absolute. I know players that have been put on the IL that say I didn't want to go on the IL. I just decided not to have the fight. I was ready in 2 days. I could have gone, but they didn't want. I didn't feel like having the back and forth with them, or I let them win that one. So this is something, and it's not a fight. It's just a back and forth. They have to take the player's input. They can't just say. I mean, sometimes they can just say you're going on the IL. Like this is bad. Like this, But they have to have some medical evidence, I believe, and they have to have trainers on their side. So it's a gray area, and I don't think the Cubs are unique to this. We are all just focused on them. It's just like bullpen usage. It's just like slumps. Every team has these issues. Every team goes through these slumps. And every team has these debates with their players about, is it time to go on the IL or not? This one was a tough one because it was right on that borderline. Council even said it, like 5-6 days. That's when you get to this weird situation. It's like, we got to make a decision here.
I would also add that all injured players are not treated the same, that it does seem like pitchers have different thresholds than position players in terms of how cautious the organization is going to be. And then, there are some players like Kyle Tucker who are stars who get a little more runway here to figure things out and defer decisions until ultimately their hands are forced.
Okay, last question from Dustin Dvorak. If Carter Hawkins leaves for the national jobs, who are some candidates to replace him, and what impact will his departure have on the 2032 Cubs? Justin, nice little dig at Carter there for his 2032 comments. That is, he's never going to live that down. He annoyed Cubs fans with that comment, and they're not going to let it go. I understand. I think the candidates, I'll give you my 2 prime ones are Jared Banner and Essen Bakari because they're assistant GMs, right? That has to be the obvious candidates. Internally, the other candidate that's kind of out of the box, but because I know he'd like to run baseball ops department someday, maybe too early, probably too early. And doing this, having him leap over people would be Tyler Zombro. I think it's too early, and I think it can cause some front office dynamics if you kind of leap over the guys that have been there. I don't know for sure, but I'm just saying, like, it's natural to like feel some things like, wait, I've been here. I've been doing things. I've been helping this team build this team to win. Outside of that, I can't name external candidates off the top of my head. This is something that, if it comes to that, I think you and I will start digging. It's kind of hard to name. I'm not sure what direction Jed would want to go. Maybe pitching again. Maybe pitching is a focus. Find another voice. I do think it's always good to find voices, external voices, and bring them in.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways they could go about it. Like, they don't need a GM in title. Jed has a small inner circle, and we're assuming most of them will be around, most if not all will be around next season. And I think through Carter's work behind the scenes, the Cubs have been brought up to speed in certain areas that Jed wanted addressed. And, some of this stuff is just title inflation, to be honest. Like, there's a lot of, a GM now in baseball is what an assistant GM used to be not that long ago. And so, yeah, we'll see how the Cubs staff up with a lockout coming. I think that's something to monitor. They've made a lot of changes behind the scenes that we detailed last year in terms of how they go about scouting now. This is a very model heavy team. And so Carter was brought in to bring that Cleveland perspective, that small market discipline. I think we've all seen that. So, like, is that just kind of part of the organization's DNA now? And do you have to replace that with something similar? Do you want a different voice? And there's also, to your point, Sahadev, like, you have to reward some of your own people too. That if the Cubs make the playoffs here, if they go on a nice run in October, like, there are people who have made contributions that should be recognized as well. So a really good question. It's just kind of a little too far ahead for us to like get more concrete than that, but something we'll be covering for sure over the next several weeks.
Yeah, if Carter, I'm not even sure if we can get much information before Carter actually leaves. Like, that's one of those things where, it'd be hard to like even get anything concrete until the decision has been made, and we'll see where that goes. I think the process, you'd want that to be done by the playoffs ish sometime, you don't want that dragging it too deep into October. I'm trying to think. Usually mid-October is when these things are done. There are cases where it drags on to the GM meetings and beyond. I think we've maybe even
the Giants have it. Or the Houston had that. The Giants, when Farhan came on, and then Scott Harris came on after that. Like, that was a longer one. Yeah.
So it could drag on. We'll see how quickly they get this done, and if Carter is the choice. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. This is Northside Territory. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you sending in questions. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care.